5. Is day 55 of the 1 year Bible. We just got to the crib, situated, got everything taken care of. We need to take care of real quick. And before we wrap up our night, let's get in our word for tonight. Let's get in our word. Let's get in our word. So we have the 1 year Bible. It's a 55. 55. 55 days in a row. 55 days in a row. For real, it's crazy. Let's find our word of the day. So our word of the day is coming. Hey, what's up, random? Our word of the night is coming from Leviticus 15, 1 through 16, and in verse 28. Then Mark 7, 1 through 23. Following it up with Psalms 40, 11 through 17. And in Proverbs 10, 13 to 14. So it's day 25, not 20, day 55 in a row of the 1 year Bible reading. Day 55 in a row, 55 days in a row, chat. Just let's clap it up for 55 days in a row. 55 days in a row. Let's clap it up for that. And let's get into our reading for tonight. So Leviticus 1 through 16, and then on verse 28. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Any man who has a bodily discharge is ceremonially unclean. This defilement is caused by a discharge, whether the discharge continues or stops. In either case, the man is unclean. Any bed on which the man with discharge lies, and anything on which he sits will be ceremonially unclean. So if you touch a man's bed, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If you sit where the discharge has sat, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in the water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If you touch the man with discharge, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If the man spits on you, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. Any saddle blanket on which the man rides will be ceremonially unclean. If you touch anything that was under the man, you will be unclean until evening. You must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If the man touches you without first rinsing his hands, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. Any clay pot the man touches must be broken. Any wooden utensil he touches must be rinsed with water. When the man with discharge is healed, he must count off 7 days for the period of purification. Then he must wash his clothes and bathe himself in fresh water, and he will be ceremonially clean. Hey, what's up? So we're reading our day 55 reading of the 1 year Bible. 55 days in a row. Hey, how you doing, Villanueva? Then he must wash his clothes and bathe himself in fresh water. He will eventually be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day, he must go get 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and come before the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle and give his offerings to the priest. The priest will offer 1 bird for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. Through this process, the priest will purify the man before the Lord for his discharge. Whenever a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his entire body in water, and he will remain ceremonially unclean until the next evening. Any clothing or leathers with semen on it must be washed with water, and it will remain unclean until evening. After a man and a woman have sexual intercourse, they must each bathe in water, and they will remain unclean until the next evening. Whenever a woman has her menstrual period, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days. Anyone who touches her during that time will be unclean until the evening. Anything on which the woman lies or sits during the time of her period will be unclean. If any of you touch her bed, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and remain unclean until evening. If you touch any object she has sat on, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you remain unclean until evening. This includes her bed or any object she has sat on. You will be unclean until evening if you touch it. If a man has sexual intercourse with her and her blood touches him, her menstrual impurity will be transmitted to him. He will remain unclean for 7 days, and any bed on which he lies will be unclean. If a woman has a flow of blood for many days that is unrelated to her menstrual period, or if the blood continues beyond the normal period, she is ceremonially unclean. And during her menstrual period, the woman will be unclean as long as the discharge continues. Any bed she lies on and any object she sits on during that time will be unclean, just as during her normal menstrual period. If any of you touch these things, you will be ceremonially unclean. You must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. When a woman bleeding stops, she must count off 7 days. Then she will be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day, she must bring 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons and present them to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will offer one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. Through this process, the priest will purify her before the Lord for the ceremonial impurity caused by her bleeding. This is how you guard people of the Israel for ceremony uncleanness. Otherwise they will die, for the impurity will defile my tabernacle that stands among them. These are the instructions for dealing with anyone who has a bodily discharge, a man who is unclean because of emission or of semen, or a woman during her menstrual period. It applies to any man or woman who has a bodily discharge, and to a man who has sexual intercourse with a woman who is ceremonially unclean. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of Aaron's two sons, who died after they entered the Lord's presence and burned the wrong kind of fire before him. The Lord said to Moses, warn your brother Aaron not to enter the most holy place behind the inner curtain whenever he chooses. If he does, he will die. For the ark's cover, the place of the atonement, is there, and I myself am present in the cloud above the atonement cover. Whenever he enters the sanctuary area, he must follow these instructions fully. He must bring a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He must put on his linen tunic and linen undergarments worn next to his body. He must tie the linen sash around his waist and put the linen turban on his head. These are sacred garments, so he must bathe himself in water before he puts them on. Aaron must take from the community of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Aaron will present his own bull as a sin offering to purify himself and his family, making them right with the Lord. Then he must take 2 of the male goats and present them to the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle. He is to cast sacred lots to determine which goat will be reserved as an offering to the Lord, and which will carry the sins of the people to the wilderness of Azazel. Aaron will then present as a sin offering the goat chosen by the lot for the Lord. The other goat, the scapegoat chosen by the lot to be sent away, will be kept alive, standing before the Lord. When it is sent away to Azazel in the wilderness, the people will be purified and made right with the Lord. Aaron will present his own bull as a sin offering to purify himself and his family, making them right with the Lord. After he has slaughtered the bull as a sin offering, he will fill an incense burner with burning coals from the altar that stands before the Lord. Then he will take two handfuls of fragrant powdered incense and will carry the burner and the incense behind the inner curtain. There in the Lord's presence, he will put the incense on the burning coals so that the cloud of incense will rise over the ark's cover, the place of the atonement, that rests on the ark of the covenant. If he follows these instructions, he will not die. Then he must take some of the blood of the bull, dip his finger in it, and sprinkle it on the east side of the atonement cover. He must sprinkle blood 7 times with his finger in front of the atonement cover. Then Aaron must slaughter the first goat as a sin offering for the people and carry his blood behind the inner curtain. There he will sprinkle the goat's blood over the atonement cover and in front of it, just as he did with the bull's blood. Through this process, he will purify the most holy place, and he will do the same for the entire tabernacle, because of the defiling sin and the rebellion of the Israelites. No one else is allowed inside the tabernacle when Aaron enters it, for the purification ceremony is in the most holy place. No one may ever enter until he comes out again, after purifying himself, his family, and all the congregation of Israel, making them right with the Lord. Then Aaron will come out to purify the altar that stands before the Lord. He will do this by taking some of the blood from the bull and the goat and putting it on each of the horns of the altar. Then he must sprinkle the blood with his finger 7 times over the altar, and this way he will cleanse it from the Israel's defilement and make it holy. When Aaron has finished purifying the most holy place in the tabernacle and the altar, he must present the live goat. He will lay both hands on the goat's head and confess over it all the wickedness, rebellion, and sins of the people of Israel. In this way, he will transfer the people's sins to the head of the goat. Then a man specially chosen for the task will drive the goat into the wilderness. As the goat goes into the wilderness, it will carry all the people's sins upon itself into a desolate land. When Aaron goes back into the tabernacle, he must take off the linen garments he was wearing when he entered the most holy place. And he must leave the garments there. Then he must bathe himself with water in a sacred place, put on his regular garments, and go to sacrifice a burnt offering for himself and a burnt offering for the people. Through this process, he will purify himself and the people, making them right with the Lord. He must then burn all the fat of the sin offering on the altar. The man chosen to drive the scapegoat into the wilderness of Azazel must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. Then he may return to the camp. The bull and the goat presented as a sin offering, whose blood Aaron takes into the most holy place for the purification ceremony, will be carried outside the camp. The animal's hides, internal organs, and dung are all to be burned. The man who burns them must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water before returning to camp. Hey, what's up? I'm sorry I have not been reading y'all's chats. Yo, what's up? That's crazy. She is enjoying her girls' night. And now, Mark 7, 1 through 23. One day, some Pharisees and teachers of religious law arrived from Jerusalem to see Jesus. They noticed that some of his disciples failed to follow the Jewish ritual of hand washing before eating. The Jews, especially the Pharisees, do not eat until they have poured water over their cupped hands, as required by their ancient traditions. Similarly, they don't eat anything from the market until they immerse their hands in water. This is but one of the many traditions they have clung to, such as their ceremonial washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. So the Pharisees and teachers of religious law asked him, "Why don't your disciples follow our age-old tradition? They eat without first performing the hand-washing ceremony." Jesus replied, "You hypocrites, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you, for he wrote, excuse me, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship is a farce, for they teach man-made ideas as a commands from God. For you ignore God's law and substitute your own tradition." Then he said, "You skillfully sidestep God's law in order to hold on to your own tradition. For instance, Moses gave you this law from God: honor your father and mother, and anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death. But you say it is all right for people to say to their parents, sorry, I can't help you, for I have vowed to give God what I have given to you. In this way, you let them disregard their needy parents. And so you cancel the word of God in order to hand down your own tradition. And this is only one example among many others." Then Jesus called to the crowd to come and hear. "All of you listen," he said, "and try to understand. It's not what goes into your body that defiles you. You are defiled by what comes from your heart." Then Jesus went into a house to get away from the crowd. And his disciples asked him what he meant by the parable he had just used. "Don't you understand either?" he asked. "Can't you see that the food you put into your body cannot defile you? Food doesn't go into your heart, but only passes through the stomach and then goes into the sewer." By saying this, he declared that every kind of food is acceptable in God's eyes. And then he added, "It is what comes from the inside that defiles you, far from within. Out of a person's heart come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these vile things come from within. They are what defile you." Ooh, bars. He always rapping. It's crazy. All right, now Psalms 40, 11 through 17. "Lord, don't hold back your tender mercies from me. And thank you for the hearts on the stream chat. Thank y'all. "Lord, don't hold back your tender mercies from me. Let your unfailing love and faithfulness always protect me. For troubles surround me, too many to count. My sins pile up so high I can't see my way out. They outnumber the hairs on my head. I have lost all courage. Please, Lord, rescue me. Come quickly, Lord, and help me. May those who try to destroy me be humiliated and put to shame. May those who take delight in my trouble be turned back in disgrace. Let them be horrified by their shame, for they said, 'Aha, we've got him now.' But may all who search for you be filled with joy and gladness in you. May those who love your salvation repeatedly shout, 'The Lord is great.' As for me, since I am poor and needy, let the Lord help me in his thoughts. You are my helper and my savior. Oh my God, do not delay." And now, to wrap up our nightly reading, do you want to know? Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, I appreciate that. Hey, what are you talking about? Only you. Stop being like that, man. All right, Proverbs 10, 13 through 14. "So wise words come from the lips of people with understanding. But those lacking sense will be beaten with a rod. Wise people treasure knowledge, but the babbling of a fool invites disaster." And now, to wrap up, policies and procedures. Policies and procedures. So policies and procedures. God's presence in the tabernacle requires some very strict rules that maintain purity and sanctity. By following these requirements, the priests and the people remember God's nature, his power, and transcendent holiness. But the focus tended to shift from God's glory to the rules themselves. Centuries later, religious leaders criticized Jesus because he cared more for his men and their hunger than for human-made policies and procedures. And Jesus called the religious leaders what they were: hypocrites. Those who follow the letter of the law and ignore the spirit. God made worship in the Sabbath to be blessings, not chores. Let's read it one more time. Policies and procedures. God's presence in the tabernacle required some very strict rules that maintains purity and sanctity. By following these requirements, the priests and the people remember God's nature, his power and transcendent holiness. But the focus tended to shift from God's glory to the rules themselves. Centuries later, religious leaders criticized Jesus because he cared more for his men and their hunger than for human-made policies and procedures. And Jesus called these religious leaders what they were, hypocrites. Those who followed the letter of the law and ignored the spirit. God made worship and the Sabbath a blessing, not chores. And let's read this one more time, right? So, those people who honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship is a farce, for they teach man-made ideas as commands from God. Ooh, you need to purify their heart. Hey, this ain't a man-made idea. Oh, man. Then Jesus calls to the crowd to come and hear. All of you listen, he said, and try to understand. It's not what goes into your body that defiles you. You're defiled by what comes from your heart. Ooh, what comes from your heart? Can you make a live stream with your wife on Friday night at 5 a.m. p.m.? I don't know. Possibly. We'll see. We'll see. What comes from your heart? What comes from your heart? What comes from your heart? Come on now. What comes from your heart? Then Jesus went to a house to get away from the crowd, and his disciples asked him, for what he meant by the parable he just used. Don't you understand either? He asked. Can't you see the food you put into your body cannot defile you? Food doesn't go into your heart, but only passes through the stomach and goes into the sewer. By saying this, he declared that every kind of food is acceptable in God's eyes. And then he added, it is what comes from inside you that defiles you. For from within, out comes a person's heart. Come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these vile things come from within. They will defile you. So what is coming out of you? Oh, that's a great question. What is coming out of you? When you're thinking of things you should celebrate, what is coming out of you initially? Are you feeling the urge to want to celebrate? You feel me? Or are you feeling the envy and jealousy? Was that coming out of you? Ooh, bars. Now, when you're thinking about things that maybe not be going your way, what's coming out of you? Are you thinking about the positive outcome or how things could work out in your favor? Or are you thinking about how this just keeps happening, how it just seems like a cycle? What's coming out of you? What's coming out of you? What's coming out of you? You feel me? What's coming out of you? What's coming from your heart? What's coming from your heart? What's coming out of you? When you're thinking about good things, you should be returning those good thoughts with good thoughts back, good energy back, not jealousy and envy. You feel me? What's coming out of you? What's coming out of you? When you're thinking about things that maybe not going your way, you shouldn't be fueling the fire. You might want to go ahead and dump the water in the fire. How things can work out in your favor, how it can work out for you, instead of, dang man, this happens. I mean, you can say what you want to say, but this not me making this up. This is the word. What's coming out of you? What's coming out of you? That's what you need to do. That's what you need to pay attention to. What's coming out of you? What's coming out of you? What's coming out of me? What's coming out of me? Thank you. Oh, yeah, I want to hear a funny story. What's up, Heaven? What's up, Angel? What's a funny story? Great read today. Great word today. What's coming out of you? What's coming out of me? What's coming out of you? Pause. What's coming out of you? What's coming out of you? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is kind of crazy. Oh man. Many men wish life upon me. When I was 4 years old and my dad was alive back then anymore, put on the funny part, he took me to Santa Claus, and when he tried to put me on his lap, I just started screaming and crying. That's crazy. Having these stories are never funny. I think they're unintentionally funny. I think your stories are unintentionally funny. I think that's what it is. Because I knew Santa Claus on real before I knew anybody told me he wasn't real childhood. But I was more like adulthood. Oh, he was aware. He was like, this strange man. Why you put me in a strange man's lap? Keep me out of this stranger's lap right now. He can't keep me anything I want. This stranger. Oh man. You probably stole him. I remember this one time I was about to get a shot. I didn't like needles. And like I accidentally mushed the doctor because I was terrified. I was terrified of needles when I was a kid. Like I was like a baby. But I figured out what a needle was real quick. I figured out what a needle was real quick. I ain't like it. It's pretty funny. Oh man, it's pretty funny. Oh man. Hey, Heaven, thank you for joining me. I'm about to end the stream because I'm about to go take a shower. But thank you for joining me, man. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you you joining and giving me the jokes, you know everything. So let's hit this outro. We all got that limitless core, baby. I appreciate you. I might even love you, but I'm for sure glad you woke up today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the subscribers we've been getting. Thank you for the watch time. Thank you for the likes. Just thank you for y'all just coming and spending quality time with me. I appreciate it a lot. You have a great one. Peace. Pop by and also do a live stream on the weekend, like the day before the weekend. And at night sounds good. I bet I got